Hi and welcome to bexbugoutsurvivor. This is a video I wanted to do a few years ago actually, but I'll get round to it now today. Putting my army basher up as a bridge hammock. Now to do this, all I need is my tarp. In my case, I'm using my British Army Basha. It's the MTP, so it's longer than my DPM, but I guess you could still do this with any British tarp pattern. So long as it has the same fittings, you can choose your own camo. But like I said, MTP is the longest of the bunch, so it's handy, gives you a lot of room. So I brought with me a little foam roll pad because I'll need to insulate it, and the main components are here. Now, although you can use some dry sticks to make your spreader bars, I've actually brought spreader bars with me in the form of these two basher poles which extend, so one for the foot, one for the head, and there is a way to connect these to the line which I'll show you in some detail. And this pack is absolutely full of everything I need to convert the tarp into a lovely, comfortable, long bridge hammock. Now, I haven't actually configured the suspension. I don't want to really use nylon because there's a lot of stretch in nylon, and there's a lot of stretch in this as well, daisy chain, so I will upgrade to a more suitable webbing with beaners, but for now, for demonstration purposes, that is going to do me. But before we put up the tree webbing, we'll have a look inside the bum bag roll here where I keep my tarp and all the bits and pieces to convert it. So we've already seen the spreader bars, and we'll talk about using sticks a little later. But as I've got spreader bars, I'm going to use them. Here's the actual tarp itself, and in it is everything I need to convert either from a hammock to a ground system and vice versa. So this could be a tent, a hammock, or a shelter for your bivvy. Although not necessary, I've got 6 army bungees. These are, I think, 36 inch. These are the 8mm hooked bungees. Not required, but it's nice to finish off the job with these, and hopefully we'll have time to finish the job up nicely with these after. Now, I really wanted to use some paracord for the tree suspension. This is nylon again. It came off another hammock, and it's too much stretch. I don't like them, hence tree webbing or the daisy chains. But here's the magic right here. This is what is going to connect to the actual hammock itself, and it's already pre-connected, and it is just a lark's head onto a climbing grade O-ring there. If you haven't got these O-rings, what you can do is actually get yourself one of them net hammocks for about £5 or £6, and you can just cut the rings out and throw the hammock for what it's worth. I found it works out a little cheaper than buying climbing grade O-rings. So one of them little net hammocks, just chop out the hammock to get the O-rings. That is for when I want to put it into its ground configuration, and these are the IPK stakes from the IPK shelter, 6 in total. Really lightweight yet really strong. I do like them. And I've already pre-connected this to the actual hammock, and I will show you all the connection at the end, but first let's put it up in the tree. For that, I'm going to put my suspension up first. I'm hoping somewhere around head height for the beaner, and then chest height or waist height, dependent on your height then, to set the actual bed. So I'm going to set it high. It'll come down to a level on my chest or my hips. And again, you don't always need the beaner. You can just thread this daisy through one of the loops. As I only have one set of beaners, I'll need these to connect to the actual O-ring of the hammock bed, so I will pass one through the other here, either way, with a beaner or without, or preferably even two sets, one for the webbing and one for the hammock. Now my bash has already been configured ready for a hammock, so after it's gone up and you see me getting in, I'll show you the knots that I used and the spreader bar technique using bash poles, and that is vital, them little knots. So you'll need to learn how to tie a bow line, but if you already know the bow line or bowline, then you're one step ahead. And it's just a case now of putting this ring here to the other side and I'm done. At the moment, for testing purposes, it's at head height. I might lower it, and that is the MTP Basha, a little longer than the DPM. Next are the spreader bars, which I've made from bivvy poles. Now I've never ever used bivvy poles, I've never had a use for them until now, so they've been modified into spreader bars. Now because this is under tension, it'll have a habit of wanting to bow and bend. If you're going to use sticks to do this, don't use a dead stick, it'll snap, and if you use live wood, then that's going to have a certain amount of bend to it, hence why just for this one occasion I'm using these bash poles, and I've had to drill a hole in there to accept this threaded screw here. That's locked into place. Now one is slightly shorter than the other. Let's turn it this way. Yeah, one is slightly shorter than the other, and that is great if you want your legs lower. That's one secure and the other one secure. Now mine has a basket foot on one end. There's your halfway extender and a tip that is pointed on one end. This here is the paracord that's come off the end of the basher, which connects to my O-ring, and I've made a loop there which is a bowline, and that will not tighten any more than that size. Neither will the smaller bowline I've tied in here. So the one above is a very small bowline loop there, which will accommodate the pointy end of my basher pole, and that, the larger one, will accommodate my basket foot. So let's put the spike in first, and you can see it is so small that it can't possibly slip over this. Now that's important. And then the basket foot into here. So now I'm going to lower the hammock, because it's overhead height, down to a suitable level, and I'm going to do that by getting a beaner and choosing a lower point on the daisy chain, so I can play about getting the height that I want. And by the way, it goes up a lot faster than that. I'm just taking my time. If you were to tie all the ends, it would take around 10 minutes or so, if you know just 1 or 2 knots. And there is so much stretch in this tree webbing, the daisy chain, I can afford to come up a little. The next step, if I want it higher, would be to move the daisy chain up the tree. So instead of trying to get it higher on Daisy, get it higher up the tree. But that right there looks about right for me. The amount of space I have is phenomenal. Perfectly flat lay, perfectly flat. More so than going on a diagonal in a gathered end hammock. And I have gathered end hammocks, and you know, they're nice, but this is absolute luxury flat bed sleeping. But the penalty is it's going to be heavier. Any bridge system for hammocking is going to be heavier. You can save weight by not bringing poles and getting some old wood on the ground. You saw it to length, and then you need to put a slit down either end and feed the paracord into them slits. Now, I don't trust that method. I've seen other people just get a big branch and force the ends together on the paracord and push them out, and once you stand up out of your hammock, it all loosens off and that pole could fall. But I don't mind carrying a couple of basher poles just if I know I'm only going to use this for the night, and it's very comfy. Unfortunately, the nylon webbing has far too much stretch in, so this would be far better with a polyester. So I will move this further up the tree and get an absolute ideal height from my hammock here. So from shoulder level, head level and above head level, that's arm stretch height. So I have my boots on the earth, my knees are in a better seated position, and I'm pretty comfy. I have a little pad there, a little foam pad. Now you could use air pad, foam pad, or as I do sometimes, or often actually, a combination of both. And between the two layers of this folded basher, I can put a little roll pad. If you are thinking of using paracord to connect from the O-ring to the basher, make sure it's real paracord. If it's bought on somewhere like Amazon or eBay, it will probably say paracord and you'll buy it, and I don't know how they're getting away with using the brand name paracord, but some of it is dire, really weak, inferior copy. So you're looking for a serial number that follows the word paracord. And you can also type the code into a search engine until some real paracord comes up, which is £550 brake strain, 550 that side, 550 that side. That's a lot of weight, but it will stretch, hence me having to set it higher. And I've also got stretch in daisy chain, and I'm going to switch it out. Now I have tried switching to polypropylene rope 6mm, and I seem to remember that had stretch in it too, but the polyester tree webbing, which I use as a suspension, also zero stretch in it. I get mine from Dutch over at Dutchware in the States, and mine are 18-foot long sections, 2 of, and there's zero stretch in a good polyester. Before I take this down and show you how to connect the actual bar to the basher, we can also hopefully get a couple of bungees from a pack and lift a roof up and just lie on a single layer straight on top of that foam pad, and it will give me some rain protection. Now the ends are open on head and foot, so it's not going to stop that side wind. But I've already done a project where I have a centre zip wide bivvy bag to put my sleeping bag in, to put into this, so the wind and the light rain won't affect me at all. Straight through the grommet, hooked into the daisy chain. That's half my roof up. Nice bit of space. Now, with an extra couple of bungees that I brought with me, I can connect onto this section here right in the centre and stake out to the ground. It might be just enough to keep the worst of the weather off. So all I have to do is bungee out the front here and have a little extra beak to protect from the rain from the top. And yeah, it could potentially come in from the head and the foot, but I can block that end off with a jacket or just leave it, because remember, I'm going to be in my bivvy anyway. And I can also put this up on a basher pole, stretch it out, then stake it to the ground, and I've got a bit of protection there as well. So total strike down pretty quick. Now I can count my kit out. 2 basher poles, check. 1 daisy chain, full check. So I'm going to put all these bits and pieces back, and we'll have a look at how to configure the actual top to accept a basher pole. First of all, we need to fold the basher in half. So there is the ridge with all the seam seal. And here's the other side, and there's the hammock bed. So first thing is genuine issue paracord, a climbing grade O-ring, and a beaner if you want to use one. There are other methods to do this. Now you got to find the centre of your paracord. Now mine's actually taller than me, so it's over 6 foot long, this section, and it doesn't need to be. It could be perhaps just 4 foot, but I found the centre. Get my O-ring and pop it inside like that, so it's running free. And with the loop section here, I open it up and pop it over the ring and tighten up. Okay, I'll do that again. Ring, pop it in and over, so it's coming right over that ring, and it makes a nice little hitch like that. So no knots, just a hitch. Now here's where there's going to be a bit of controversy the way I hang it. These here are the hammock stretcher handles, the strongest part of the British Army Basha. It's a casualty evacuation stretcher. They are the handles. That is where you should tie off to. Never tie off any suspension to your grommets. I've already blown one out trying to put a spreader bar in. Now these tapes here are not meant to be load bearing either, but that is where I've been using mine. So it might be a case of don't do as I'm doing, but do as I recommend, which is here, the handles. But I get a much better fit from using these end tapes, and as you can see, it does support my weight. And if I do rip out in time, then I've only got myself to blame, and I don't have to hand this back in because it's mine. So with one of the ends, I bring through the pigtail like that and pull the required amount through. Come down to the halfway point where the grommet is. That is where I'm going to sit the O-ring, approximately halfway down. So now we know the length of cord we need and where to tie off. So I can tie it off here. I'm going to tie it to fit this, and it's important that the knot doesn't slip over the basket foot. Right, let's make a bowline knot. Recap: O-ring on the centre ring of your top that's folded in half. This is the line that has the O-ring. I'm going to make a number 6 figure here. You can see that, a figure 6. Now I'm left-handed, so it might be the opposite to you if you're right-handed. But the line is always behind. So there's your number 6, and it's really important that this back line goes behind. Now with that excess pigtail, I push all the way through the loop of the number 6 away from me. So I'm stood in front of it right now, so away from my belly button. Around the line. And back through the loop of the number 6 towards me. If the loop's too big, it'll just go over my basket foot of my pole. So I'm just going to loosen it and make this part of the loop a lot smaller. So loosey and tight, and tighten it a bit more and a bit more. And I can even afford to go a little tighter. So loosen the 2 knots, put that in, and I can even afford to go a little tighter than that. Okay, that's about right. A little more tricky this one, because I've got to get that knot really small to accommodate the spike. So let's get this centered. And how much you give yourself here is trial and error as well. I just start with the ring approximately in the center. This is the line that runs to the O-ring, and this line in my right hand is all the line that is what I call the pigtail. It's connected to nothing. It just has a tail. The line that is connected to the O-ring gets the number 6. The pigtail away from me, and keep pulling until I get a really small loop at the bottom here where my finger is. That is where the pole is going to go through. So I could actually put that in now and measure off. And once I'm happy with its measurement, I can go round this section, which is connected to the O-ring, and the pigtail comes back towards me at the end. Now there are other videos that will show you this knot, the bowline, in more detail. I just want to do this and get gone. Now I've got to make this section small enough to receive this here, and at the moment that knot's far too big, so I've got to make that smaller. Through the number 6, introduce the pole, size it, pigtail through the number 6, around the working line on the left. I can either come clockwise or anti-clockwise, makes no difference so long as the loop comes back through the number 6. Where are you going in such a hurry? Was it you who bit me last week? And all I do is loosen a knot and tighten it all up, a bit at a time. Oh, that's nice and tight. There you go. Now that knot can't jump over the bar. That is security. Now what you can find is if you have one side of the line longer than the other, say the right side line here is 20 inches and that is 18 inches, what will happen is your bar will become lopsided like that, and it'll have the effect of trying to tip you out one way or the other. The fix for that is just to come in and loosen off the O-ring and pull one way or the other depending on which way it's tipping. So loosen up the O-ring and pull it more to the right, loosen up the O-ring, pull it more to the left. And that is just a case of getting in and out and trial and error. So that's my hammock with a roof for cold weather. Perfectly flat lie. Now I have looked at the Ridge Runner, the Haven tent, the Banyan by Dutchware. I like them all. If I had the money I'd have one of each. It'd be hard to choose one from the other. And they're all Bridge hammocks. And they're all, to get it into the country, pay the tax I need, we're looking at easy 350, 400 UK pounds. It's a lot of money. This here, I think a Basha second hand, 40 quid perhaps for the MTP. DPM even cheaper, you might get one for 20 quid, 10 quid, but you want one that's in really good order, not ripped. You need the handles. Use the hand holes. I know I didn't, but that's on me. But it's a big saving from 400 to 40, and I can do the same thing, have a Bridge hammock. Now when I was testing all this out, I put the spike of the Basha pole and the basket foot through the grommets at first, and not only didn't it work, it wasn't very secure, and I blew out one of the grommets, totally came out, because there is a lot of pressure on that. So whether you use a stick or whether you use Basha poles or a trekking pole as a spreader bar, use the actual rope itself that can, or string in this case, from the O-ring to the actual Basha. That is where your stick goes, your spreader bar. And you saw how I can connect mine. You could probably do similar with a trekking pole if you had a good quality strong one. I don't think I'd like to try it with my carbon fibre, just because it's very expensive and I don't really want to break them. If you use dead wood, it is under tension and could snap. If you use green wood, it could bow, and I can't wait to try that out with the bivvy with the new zip in the front and 1 or 2 Arctic bags for winter. So it's a way of getting a really comfortable flat lay, and it is so comfortable, a bridge hammock. I'm going to say more so for myself than the gathered end hammock, and I am only speaking from my own perspective and findings that bridge hammocks are more comfortable than gathered end hammocks. Before anyone starts arguing in the comments, it is my opinion that I feel for myself. If you feel more comfortable in the gathered end hammock, then just stay with your gathered end hammock. But if you've never tried a bridge hammock, go for it.